Hello everyone. So today for my Affinity Space video essay, I'm going to be investigating the affinity space of hogsports.com. Hogsports.com is a subsection of 247sports.com, which is a website that allows users to find out the breaking news of college sports. 247sports.com is an avenue to any college in the country for any fans of those of colleges that would like to find out breaking news for their school. Obviously, Hog Sports is a subsection that focuses on Razorback sports, and specifically Razorback football and Razorback men's basketball. So users come to this site to gain information on both of these teams. For example, right now, the Arkansas football team is still looking for the new head coach, so many users will come to hogsports.com to find out any updates on the coaching search. They can do this through articles that are posted or rumors on message boards, different things like that. So as you can see here, there are different portals to different sections of the website. So here are some portals that take you directly to some message boards and some articles. And then up here, again, we have a toolbar that shows latest news, boards, football, and then individual sections for football recruiting and basketball recruiting, and then obviously sub portals within each of these. What I'm going to be focusing on today is how members interact with each other through the message boards. So if we go to boards and we go to lobby, we see there are two main message boards. So we'll start with the first. So newcomers and experienced members can interact through these message boards. This is a platform that allows you to post your opinions, obviously about Razorback basketball and football, and members are able to upvote and downvote and quote each other's posts and different things like that. We'll look at this board called More Truth About Arkansas Football. So as you can see here, you're able to post, you're able to upvote, downvote. This user right here quoted an original post. You're able to respond with GIFs. I love The Office, so I think this is hilarious. And again, this is just ways that members can interact with each other on this space. Now, there are rules in place that members must follow in order to maintain the space as informational rather than combative or hostile. Like I said, they're able to reference other posts in their own posts in order to be clear about what they are responding to. And this can be effective, especially if the original post was made a while back or there had been a lot of traffic on this message board since the original post was made. Because of the interaction between members, there is lots of learning going on. Of course, members are able to learn purely from the articles that are available on this space, but the majority of learning is not from content, but through the interaction with the other members. This can be through personal stories of members who have been Razorback fans for years, teaching newer Razorback fans the history of the teams and different experiences that they've had from 10, 15, even 20 years ago. But it can also occur the other way as new Razorback fans who may be more adept to using technology can find out, breaking news first, post it to the message board, and then thus the older Razorback fans or older members are able to find out this breaking news as well if they're not as adept to, using the platforms that breaking news happens on, like Twitter or X, I suppose, or different social media things like that. Which this obviously demonstrates the theory of distributed knowledge between members. Members usually use research and information so that their post is accurate. So following traditional literacy like reading and writing, they also obviously have to read other posts and write theirs to make sure it's not the same as someone else's. So they read other posts to reply to them and to make sure that they are not just repeating what somebody else has said, and then they need to write and edit their own to before they make their post. However, they do this obviously on the website and usually via a computer or a phone. And then, of course, they obviously use common, GIFs to emphasize a reaction they had to a post, like we saw earlier, which again demonstrates the use of multimodal and digital literacies alongside those traditional literacies. So this space, it provides helpful tips which allow for newcomers to feel comfortable sharing their opinions and interacting with other experienced members. So there are standards in place to respect each other's posts, and again, not be disrespectful. And I'll show you here where we see Keyhog Sport Links. So what this is a great tool for newcomers, new members to this platform, who may not be able to navigate through all of these just yet or still learning. So here you can see Keyhog Sports Links, and then here you see the Razor's Edge VIP forum rules. So there's different rules like no personal attacks, no trolling, no excessive player bashing or bashing of recruits, different things like that. And then, like I mentioned, there are some other helpful tips. And these are great for newcomers, again, who are not familiar with how to interact with other members on this platform just yet. So, be careful when using sarcasm, or don't beat a dead horse, or don't make the same post, right? And then also things like don't be discouraged, and be willing to ask questions. So there's contact information for the publisher and one of the head moderators of this platform. So this platform, it reveals that the freedom of an online affinity space, it allows people to teach themselves how to learn from others. So I think that this is something that is not necessarily emphasized in classrooms enough. That students can learn from each other just as much, if not more, than they can learn from a traditional content delivering teacher. I think that this is something that should be emphasized more in classrooms. Not only does this space allow for that freedom, and allow for that learning to take place, but it also allows for the members to learn how to interact effectively within a community of shared interest. So often you will see that members will slowly become more comfortable the longer they are part of this space, and therefore are growing their confidence as learners and learning more. This challenges how teaching and learning are typically organized in school, because in this space there's no teacher, no person of authority. There are moderators, but they are not in a position of power, meaning their opinions are not worth any more than a brand new member. Their role is simply to maintain the space as an open forum for communication and interaction. And then when relating it to school, it's sort of like a classroom with no teacher in a position of power, right? Just a teacher simply as a moderator, where the students learn and depend on each other for learning. It would, in order to implement something like this in a classroom, it would take, understanding that students can learn just as much from each other, and on their own, that they can through, direct instruction from a teacher. And some small changes would look like, leaning on classroom and small group discussions and activities where students are forced to problem solve only using their classmate or group members. So this can look like gallery walks in groups, or even debates. And as teachers, we can better support collaborative, peer-driven learning in classrooms by emphasizing the importance of it to our students from the very beginning. We must give clear opportunities for the students to take advantage of these peer-driven learning opportunities. Things like I said, like debates. That's one of my favorite things that I get to do that I've ever done in a classroom, is have my students prepare a debate, and get that discourse going on a specific topic. One of my favorite that I did during my internship was a debate on the morality of imperialism at the turn of the century on the United States' part. This created a great discourse in my classroom, and it allowed students to evaluate their original stance, their assigned stance, and the stance of the opposing side, which again allowed for great discussion within the classroom. But this also, it takes the creation of a classroom culture that fosters this kind of community. So students must know that they can lean on their classmates if and when they need help, rather than only depending on the teacher or an authority figure. Now, classroom structures that would allow for more meaningful participation is kind of like what we see here. where on this affinity space, where there are clear guidelines as to what is expected of each student in the classroom or each member in the space. However, these guidelines do not and cannot restrict the meaning making that is happening that the students or the members will be taking part in. There has to be an agreed upon understanding of guidelines in order for this to be effective. So, Hog Sports is a very interesting affinity space because it's a great place for sports lovers like myself to come find out more information, share stories, share opinions, and sort of see how those are taken, in a context like this.